Hi, my name is Sarah, and my service dog Bailey is taking a nap over here. You can see part of her. And since our flights for winter break are over, I did want to chat a little bit about how they went. I will have another video about security and TSA, and this video will be about our experience in the airport and with the airline Southwest. So some things right off the bat. I did fast Bailey. She didn't have breakfast the morning of our flights for either of them, and I did cut off water about 6 hours before our flight, both times, and I made sure she went to the bathroom before I left for the airport. So I did those things to prep her, just to make sure she wouldn't be uncomfortable on the flight. And in my video about what I packed in the carry-on, you can see the treats that I brought on the flight with us. So besides that, some things off the bat that I would say your dog should be prepared for is a tight tuck, so that they don't get in the way while you're waiting for your plane or while you're on the plane. And the ability to stay focused around a lot of people, a lot of kids, potentially other animals who are not well behaved. They should also be able to do a short stay and recall for security if needed, but you can see my TSA video for what our experience was like there. There were a lot of pets flying because of the time of year. It was the holidays, and so while we were walking to get to our check-in line, we did get barked at by a lot of animals. There weren't a whole lot of lunges and barking, just a lot of barking and a lot of animals who, were distracted and mostly wanted to play. There were a couple who were aggressive or reactive, but most of them were pretty friendly. And then we got checked in. They didn't ask us for paperwork. They are allowed to ask for paperwork for psychiatric service animals and emotional support animals, but I called them 2 days before, and she was on my ticket from when we bought the ticket. So they knew she was coming, and they knew she was legitimate, so they didn't ask us for paperwork, and they were very respectful the entire time. So we checked our baggage. They sent us through TSA, and then we waited at our gate. At both of the airports that I flew out of, we did stop by the service animal relief stations. At the first one, it was open. It was in the middle of near a gate, and it smelled really bad. Not as bad as some other ones I've been by, but it's just like a block of turf. Bailey will hold it instead of going on those. It's disgusting, and I can barely, stand by it without vomiting. And so it's so disgusting, she doesn't want to go near it. So that's why we fast her and don't give her water, to make sure that she doesn't need to go for our flights. But I did give her the option. She didn't want to go. And then for the second airport we were at, it was a closed room, and I couldn't step in there. I walked in and almost vomited. I was dry heaving outside of it for 10 minutes, and I couldn't even go inside. And I actually filed a complaint about it because, if I had a breathing condition or something else, the people who need to use those rooms are a lot of people with disabilities, with service animals. And if I wasn't able to, and I have, my respiratory system is pretty healthy, if someone with an unhealthy respiratory system tried to do that, they wouldn't have been able to, and it actually could have put them in a lot of danger. So the closed room ones smell even worse. And since we couldn't go in, Bailey, couldn't go. But again, she was fine until we landed. And so we wasted some time. My second flight was delayed by 5 hours or something like that. So I spent a lot of time wandering around the airport, hanging out, getting food, walking around, sitting down, listening to an audiobook, just trying to keep myself busy. For the first flight, I knew someone, and I was already going to pre-board because of Bailey and because of my disability, so that I could get the extra room, so that I could get myself settled and ready before other people were coming on. And so you're allowed to have one person come with you to pre-board to assist you, and I knew someone who was coming on the flight, and so she said she would help me with my bags and stuff because they were kind of too heavy for me to hold. And so she helped me get on the plane and pre-boarded with me and then sat next to me. And so because I knew her, Bailey had a little bit of extra room to spread out. But the bulkhead in Southwest is actually really good. Bailey's 75 pounds and she fits in our own spot pretty well, even without like a super tight tuck. If she's lying just like straight, she does fine. And she did have a little extra room because my friend was sitting next to us. And then the flight attendants and the flight crew were really respectful and they were great. They gave me some extra water for her when I asked, and you know, they were just super respectful about her, especially considering the fact that on my first flight there were 5 other dogs. A lot of them were in carriers, but there were a lot of animals on that flight and they handled it beautifully. Southwest is really great with helping people with disabilities and working with service animals handlers, and so they're always the first airline I recommend for new handlers or people looking to fly for the first time with their service animal. So they do great. Their staff is well trained. Their customer service is wonderful. I mean, they just do great at making it a comfortable and good experience. Our flight was about 5 hours, I think, and Bailey slept through most of it. The takeoff and the landing were a little bumpy, and I was really anxious, so she was doing DPT during those, but even with the bump, she continued to do DPT. She does like looking out the window when it's light enough outside once we take off. So while she was doing DPT, she was looking, and then she just lied down on the floor and slept for most of it. The nice thing about Southwest is that they allow you to pick your seats, and so I know that the people who choose to sit next to me are never going to hate sitting next to a dog. Every single time I've flown Southwest, someone has been like, oh, yeah, of course, please tell her to like stretch out, and like, we don't mind at all. Even though I do try to keep her in a, you know, tuck and in my space, if for the very least for standards. But all the people I've ever flown next to have been very friendly and very nice, and all of them thus far have respected the no petting, don't touch her, don't talk to her patches that I do have. Although they did want her to stretch out and like lean on them, but that was the extent of how they knew they were going to get any sort of physical contact. Because of the large number of animals on both of our flights, I did have to make sure that I got in line to pre-board very early. So as soon as I, saw they were finished taking people off the previous flight, I would just stand up and wait with my service animal near the front, so that I knew as soon as they started pre-boarding, I would be one of the first. Because, there were some either emotional support animals or pets who were flying that those owners were also looking to get the bulkhead seating, and size-wise, we were the largest animal on the flight, and so I wanted to make sure that we got that first, and that we wouldn't, have the smaller seating. We would be able to make it work if we didn't have the bulkhead and we had to, tuck a little bit tighter, but it is much more comfortable for both Bailey and me if we are able to, have that extra foot room. So I did make sure I was in line for that pretty early. Based on the size of the other animals, they were fine in the non-bulkhead. Overall, our experience was pretty good. We did have a couple barking animals, a couple lunging animals, but nothing that was training ruining or anything like that. The animals on our flight were relatively quiet, and the Southwest Airlines staff as always, was wonderful. So overall, it was a great experience. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments down below. But otherwise, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. Thanks. Bye.